Rocky hitting Ryland with the we're brave, we'll do it. And then a page later, Strat calling Ryland a coward is insane and awesome. Hello and welcome back to the couch. We saved you a seat. My name is Luke, and today we're checking out Chapter 23 of Project Hail Mary. Yes, we're doing a day-by-day chapter reaction and review of this book, which is being turned into a movie, and it's releasing in March of 2026. I'm pretty excited about it. I've done every chapter thus far. If you want to follow along, there is a link to Amazon in the description. Just click on it, buy the book, and it will be delivered to you, and you can follow along with the rest of us. But we're going to start from the beginning of this chapter. Okay. This is insane. And I feel bad for Ryland here. So at the beginning of this chapter, Ryland arrives to a meeting on time, but everyone else is there already. He strikes me as a person who's a 5 minutes early is late kind of person, Ryland. He's going to show up early most days, right? More than 5 minutes. And all of Strat's Avengers are sitting there, all the scientists that we've gathered, including Yao and the Russian engineer. And they're all looking pretty grim, right? They've just had this explosion. 2 of their crewmates have been unalived, or 2 of the other people have been unalived. And they have obviously discussed something. What they believe is Dubois and Shapiro were running tests utilizing astrophage on the generator, where a full-on, if everything fails, this might happen. This includes a short and a few other items. This might happen where too much astrophage is fed into the generator. So, and it would be like a nanogram. It'd be a small amount, but too much for sure. And so Shapiro wanted to figure this out. Dubois wanted to figure this out. So they were running this test. And what they determined is when they requisitioned the amount of astrophage they needed for the test, they didn't get a nanogram. They got a milligram from the quartermaster. Human error. Well, a milligram is 1,000,000 times larger than a nanogram. And so it vaporized everyone and everything within something like a 5-mile radius or something. Correct me in the comments if I'm mistaken, but it vaporized everyone. It vaporized the metal. It vaporized the buildings. Everyone. It's 1,000,000 times more than they thought was necessary for a generator that's going on the Hail Mary. They're dealing with massive amounts of energy, and that is the one thing that they continue to kind of joke about. They continue to kind of talk around. They're a little jaded toward how much energy these things generate per unit. It's insane. In that regard, the group, sans Ryland, has discussed, and they intend on continuing the mission. Here's where it comes into play. Strat voluntold Ryland that he gets to go on this mission. He's the most qualified. He knows everything about the Hail Mary. He knows the most about astrophage. And he has the coma-resistant gene. We finally made it to the point. Why is Ryland on the ship? This is why. He gets voluntold. However, Yao, being the honorable one, says, we're not gonna force you. And Ryland's like, well, I don't want to go then. Bring someone else. And Strat has identified the next available candidate who has a biology degree and a minor in chemistry, but is working at a distillery in Paraguay. So, in terms of credentials, Ryland is the man. She's not going to be able to learn all she needs to know in 5 days, 4 days, 6 days. It's under 9 days. So Ryland says, please give me a little while to think about it. And Strat's like, okay, you have till the end of the day. We cut back to the present. The Beatles, with considerably less mass, are fully capable of pushing the Hail Mary up to the speed they need to generate that 1.5 G within the ship. Meaning it's the same or similar amount of thrust that they were using before to get to the Tau Ceti system. After they get out of orbit, Ryland then takes the EVA and puts struts on there so they can better control it. And now they're able to take that 11-day journey from Adrian to Blip A. Rocky does the steering, Ryland does navigation. Ryland appreciates this because the navigation is pretty specific. It's pretty dialed in math, and he wants to make sure it's completely correct. And Rocky might be more suited for the piloting of the ship anyway. Once they vectored themselves back onto course, Rocky says, "All right, buddy, it's time for you to go to rest." And Ryland's like, "No, I have gravity. I want to take care of a few things." So they'll hold thrust for three hours, and so he has 1.5 Gs to go check the environments that he set up, one for 3 worlds and one for Venus, to see if these Talmiba have consumed the astrophage. So he works his way down. It had been a while since he had checked it. It had been a while since he had been in 1.5 G. And what he did was he checked the first slide for Venus, and it was completely black, meaning it was completely covered with astrophage. And he was like, damn. And then he checked the second slide for 3 world. Same issue. All they had done up to this point was a failure. Ryland failed. Rocky failed. The traumatic experience they had where the ship almost crashed into Adrian, the creating the chain, the doing all of those things, Rocky had failed both of their people. This was the one shot that they had to save them. And they're going to have to figure out something else. And Ryland's he's hopeless. And he communicates that to Rocky, and Rocky begins to be hopeless. And then Rocky says, "You know what? We're not hopeless. We're going to stand up. We're going to figure this out because we're brave and we're us. We are us. We're going to do this." Specifically, he says we're brave. Ryland has a small pity party about being stuck out there, but then he picks himself back up and he says, all right. Then we go back to the past. This part really changed my perception of Strat. I'm not going to lie to you. I have thoughts, but I'll share them at the end. Strat sitting in her trailer. Ryland walks in, and there's a Russian soldier. Ryland just assumes that the Russians don't want to take any chances because it could be terrorists, even though they assume it was human error. And Strat's like, yeah, sure, that's why he's here. Ryland conveys to Strat his decision is no, he doesn't have to go. And Strat says, I see. Scowls. Ryland then provides his reasons. And his reasons sound like excuses to me. But they're reasons for him. He calls it for the kids. He doesn't want to be murdered. He starts with the kids. And Strat counters with the fact that Ryland could be instrumental in saving the entirety of the human race. And he's perfectly qualified for the mission. Ryland then counters with not being a good crew member, claiming that he's not an intrepid explorer, and then Strat calls him a coward. That if Ryland really cared about the children, he'd be on that ship without hesitation with an opportunity to save billions of lives. Ryland tries to rebound, but he's interrupted. Strat calls Ryland a coward again, claiming that he always had been, and that he abandoned a promising scientific career because he wrote a paper that a few people didn't agree with, that he became a teacher because he could be the cool teacher that the kids would love. He's never had any sort of romantic entanglements because he's afraid of heartbreak, and he avoids it. He avoids risk like the plague. Ryland stands up. He rebuffs that he is afraid and that he deserves to live, and that he's not going. Strat lets him know that she doesn't care what he thinks and that he's going to be forced onto the Hail Mary because he is the most qualified. Ryland tries to leave. Strat gets the Russian soldier to stand in his way. Ryland asks Strat what her plan is, and Strat says, we'll just put you in a coma. Ryland rebuffs this and says that Yao would never go for this. And Strat says, we'll explain it away to him. We'll put you in a coma. We'll sedate you and we'll strap you in. And Yao and the Russian engineer can just fly the ship out of orbit. Strat then claims to like Ryland, that she thinks he's fundamentally good. And Ryland's like, please don't let me die. Don't send me off to die. Strat rebuffs with, think of it on the bright side. You'll be considered a hero by every human being on the face of the planet. Ryland gets panicky. He decides to tell Strat that he'll scuttle the ship and sabotage the mission. And this is where the story gets real creepy. Actually, I think up to this point, it's my favorite monologue as an actor. It's my favorite monologue. I'm like, it's when Strat is explaining to Ryland exactly how he's going to be addressed. She has all the control. He has zero control. Super creepy. Strat says, we'll give you some sort of medication that'll give you short-term amnesia, and you'll even forget everything about what's happening except for your skills, knowledge, and language. You won't know why you're on the ship, and you'll slowly get it back. And Yao and the Russian engineer will teach you everything you need to know. And by the time that you remember everything, your mission will probably already be done, or the human race will already be extinct. Either way, you're going on this mission. Strat nods to the Russian soldier, and he takes Ryland away. And Ryland screams, don't do this. And Strat tells Ryland, think of all the kids you're saving. It's super villain energy, but that's the end of the chapter. Yeah, Strat's effing evil. I don't know how else to say it. She's evil. But I do think one thing. I think she's logical. But I do, after reading this, think even more so that Strat is in love with Ryland. She says, I don't respect you, but I think you're fundamentally good. And this would have been the moment, I think, had Ryland decided to go, that she would have actually had romantic feelings for him. But since he's not going, since he is this coward that she's describing, it reconfirmed her thoughts about him. That, yes, he is fundamentally good and morally just and thoughtful and smart and pro-human and all about being for people. But not deciding to go, ironically, makes her disrespect him. And honestly, puts him in the friend zone. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. That Strat now has friend-zoned Ryland, even though had he stayed, had he stayed, she could have been with him, but since he decided not to go and she hasn't forced him, it's even worse. Less of a man kind of thing. It's interesting. We don't get Strat's perspective. Up until this point, for sure. Does she have romantic feelings? In the movie, I would give her romantic feelings. I would let it be subtle. I don't know that that's in the book. It doesn't need to be in the book. They're different mediums. But in a movie, I would let there be some romantic feelings. Like, for example, in the story, she scowls when he says no, and she says, I see. And obviously, she's already got a redundancy for it. Okay, well, we're just going to drug you, put you in a coma, throw you on the ship, and these drugs are going to help you remember all your skills, but kind of forget why you're there, and you're going to be able to help the crew save the Earth. That's her redundancy, right? Because they're not going to train this random woman from Paraguay to go on this mission. But had he said, I'm going to go on this mission, I'm going to help them succeed, I think there would have been something romantic there in the last 4 or 5 days. And I think they're going to put that undertone in the movie, for sure. Because it then gives a little bit more depth to the characters. In a book, you've got 400, this is 460, 70 pages, whatnot. And it's mostly the Ryland and Rocky story with a few ancillary characters on the side and great flashbacks. Mostly great flashbacks. Shout out to the courtroom scene, it kind of sucks. But in the movie, you want to make everyone seem more human. And this would be the point where you would give Strat that human element, where she's less bravado, less stoic, less regimented, and then she would become emotional just for a moment, and not sad, disappointed, because she thought there might have been some sort of thing there. I think that romantic line was intentional. I don't think that was for Ryland, but when you read the book from his point of view, he may not see it that way, and it's his point of view. So I think the romantic line there was intentional, right? Like, why doesn't this man, who's bright and thoughtful, why doesn't he have any romantic entanglements? Why doesn't he have a girlfriend, a wife character, a boyfriend, a husband? Why not? And she had spent all this time, probably most of this time, trying to figure it out. And it had been slowly eating at her that, oh, it's because of this cowardice. And then this finally confirms it. That acting point's for sure going to be in the movie. If it's not, they're missing an opportunity, because like I said, it's a visual medium. You're able to put in those subtleties without it actually being in the book or the script. Okay, let's talk about predictions, because I was asked in the comments to do predictions. We're at chapter 23. There's a few more chapters to go. We're heading back to the blip A. The environments don't work. What are we going to do? Well, Ryland's going to get forced onto the ship. I think there's going to be 1 or 2 more conversations between her and Strat. I think that's for sure going to happen. Before Ryland and Strat. I think that's for sure going to happen. There's going to be 1 more come to Jesus moment. She's going to rebuff why she's sending him. She's going to feel like he deserves that for whatever reason. But you could end the flashbacks right here. I mean, the story's told. But I think there's going to be 1 or 2 more. Simply because I know how many more pages are left, and you've got to fill that time into that gap. Speaking of the Talmiba, yeah, I don't know how they're going to address that, right? Because they have the 11-day trip. I assume that after the thrust, they'll put it into centrifuge mode, or maybe they mentioned that in this chapter, and so they'll be spinning through space, which is kind of hilarious thinking about it. I mean, what if you were an alien and you just saw a ship turning as it was flying by? It'd be pretty funny. It'd be pretty cool. Yeah. Hey, what if flying saucers are they're really just giant centrifuge machines, and the mass that is used to create the gravity needed on the inside of the flying saucer is just not visible on our frequency, on our visual spectrum. Anyway, that's a wild thought. But no, I think they're going to somehow address the Talmiba and the astrophage, make it so they can create the environment for both 3World and for Venus, that they're going to be able to do this. And I'd love to see Ryland go home, for the simple fact that all of this part will come full circle. He'll see this hero. He'll see this hero-ness that they are promising him, right? This comfort that she's sort of giving. He'll see it. It would be nice if that was the case. Strat would probably be in jail at this point. I know she has that forever pardon, but she'd probably be in jail by the time he gets back, because it's 26 years. There's no telling how old she is. She might be in her 40s. She's 76, 66, 68. You know, Strat's not young. Wouldn't be young too, but he will only have had 8.5 years of time passing. Let's say he's in his 30s, so he'd be in his 40s. Here's another thing that they don't talk about, and it's interesting. Gravity does weird things to people. So if he's living in 1.5 G for the next 4 years as he's traveling back from the blip A, where they go their separate ways and they say their goodbyes. If he's traveling like that, 1.5 G, if he's awake, and I imagine he'll be awake, because I don't think he wants the possibility of dying in a coma again. Although I'm sure he could work with the computer to come up with some way to keep him from passing on. But as he's traveling back, 1.5 G, the human body isn't built to deal with that. I thought about this for a long time, that maybe, you could train to build up to plus G gravity, like Dragon Ball Z or something like that. And it's just not a thing. I think you could withstand 1.5 G for a while, but you'd age. You'd age pretty quickly, I think. Your joints aren't built for it. Your organs aren't built for it. You'd have to gain mass in terms of muscle and bone density at a rate equal to the increase of gravity. You might even have to lose weight and gain muscle at the same time, which is incredibly difficult. I've tried for years. Anyway, I think Rocky and Ryland are going to go back. They're going to say their goodbyes. They're going to figure this all out. And Ryland's going to get to go home. But that goodbye is going to be insane. It's going to be insane. Make me sad. Kind of hate it now that you asked me to do this. But yeah, I think that's how it's going to go. I don't know if the environments, if something's killing the Talmiba. I don't know if something is strengthening the astrophage. I don't know how you could strengthen the astrophage in those environments. But I think something's either killing the Talmiba or something, because it's aggressive. We learned in one of the previous chapters that it is extremely aggressive in regard to being the predator of astrophage. So there's something that's killing the Talmiba, and they'll probably figure it out. But yeah, I think that's all I've got for you. If you like this content, please feel free to like and subscribe and share. If you want to follow along, once again, there's a link to Amazon in the description. Buy the book. If you want to help out the channel, but you don't already have the book, just use the link to buy something else. I'll see some commissions for it. It's not massive, but it is helpful and thoughtful. But I think that's it for us. So until next time, later, taters.